Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
A reminder to our audience, the views on this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only, and any views expressed do not reflect the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association.
Especially anything that comes out of Bill's mouth.
Or mine.
Or Kristen's.
Or Josh's.
I was told I have a tell. You can tell I'm lying when my lips start moving.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Episode 45. We're going back to the basics tonight. I am sounding a little bit more perky, but yes, I am. I had a decent week. I only worked one route all week with the exception of Saturday. So that was nice. It was actually really weird being home before 4 o'clock a few days. Under eval every day, even yesterday with the box. Our advos showed up yesterday instead of Tuesday. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to deliver them. So I was about 3 minutes under evaluation. So, hey, it works. How was your week, Josh?
It was a week. Still trucking at it. I have that new sub is coming in the morning and working with me in the case, and then they send her elsewhere to do whatever. So at least she's getting some casing time and getting used to it. Hopefully it'll make her proficient, and they'll get off her ass at some point, maybe. I was just realizing, looking back at the very last pay stub, that I have 8127 time, like 4 or 5 of them dating back to June that haven't been processed yet. So I have to have that heart-to-heart with the supervisor tomorrow. And if she tells me she'll get to it when she gets to it, I'll ask her for an 8191. So hopefully that'll speed her up.
What's an 8191?
Grievance form.
Oh, I'm not familiar with those.
It's supposedly the thing that you always tell us to use when you say file, and then file some more.
Oh, why didn't he just say grievance form? I'm new here. I don't know what an 8191 is.
Well,
yeah, Josh, you have to go back to basics here.
Thank you.
I forgot we were doing that. Yes. And I know.
And the 8191 is the rural carrier grievance form, not the 8190, which is the city carrier grievance form.
And not to be confused with whatever the clerks use for grievance form.
Yeah, I have no clue what
The
that one is.
APWU form or the mail handlers form.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We are rural. We talk rural. Rural is the PS form 8191 grievance form.
All right. Anything else to add on for your week, Josh?
No.
Oh, I forgot.
Still don't have my truck back. And they seem to be in no rush to want to call the VMF to inquire about it. So
I got to write mine up for brakes. Some news. My route went up for bid on the 17th.
Yay.
Yeah, the route finally went up for bid. In fact, she announced it was probably going to be up the 17th the week prior. So the morning of the 17th, I'm waiting on them to finish sorting letters or whatever, because, we're short clerks. But so I walk over and I was like, hey, it's to the supervisor, because the postmaster was on vacation for a few days. And I said, it's posted. I just bid. And of course, she announced it when I was out loading the truck. But yes,
So she actually did post the hard copy like she's supposed to.
yes, it is hung up on the bulletin
Okay.
board. Yes, it is up there.
All right. We just wanted to make sure because all it takes is, even though they're not going to bid on it, someone else saying, "Hey, it wasn't posted."
Yeah, nobody really cares in my office, trust me. But
Why?
nobody wants
know.
this route, and honestly, it's not my first choice of routes. But I'll take it because I don't have a
I'll
choice.
tell you what. One of my supervisors when I first started used to always say, "Go regular, then find your home."
And this route could end up being my home. I don't know. I don't mind the route. It is the second heaviest route in the office. It's not a bad route. It's just, it's heavier. Like I said, it's the second heaviest in the office. It has its days. There's days I can knock it out and be done. It's a 45K. There's days where I can be done by 2 o'clock, and then there's days where I'm rolling in at 7 o'clock. It's just,
Right.
How it is. I mean, on an average day, not a Monday or a day after holiday, I average between 105 to 150 parcels. A day after holiday or a Monday, it's 200 plus. But
I don't even count them.
I
I don't even look. I just know I have a fuck ton.
right. It's it's.
And that is a technical measurement.
Yes, it is.
There
was something else I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh, I got my daughter for the weekend. My one that lives 2 hours away. She yesterday was her 13th birthday. Thursday was Ruby's birthday. That's the troublemaker. She turned 17 Thursday. Sophia turned 13 Saturday. And my parents came up today. This is the first time that they've been up north, I think, since early spring. Dad was feeling good. The weather was nice, so they came up to see the girls. Grilled out for dinner today. I made my daughter's birthday cake. It was like I said, I wasn't dead ass tired from working 55.88 hours with a holiday in there.
They said that sounds like my wife and her sister, except your kids have a couple more years between them. They are 2 years, 2 days apart.
4 years, 2 days apart. So now my kids, and my son put his leave in. He got his plane tickets for December and submitted his leave. So we're just waiting to see if it gets approved. So I may have all 3 of my kids home for Christmas this year. Yay!
Wow.
My son's leave gets approved. I'm taking him to a concert at the Machine Shop in Flint on the 16th of December. Because I said, hey, if you're going to be home, you're going with me. And so there is a little bit more pep in my step right now. And
Talking about concerts, you never replied to me on whether or not you wanted to come visit.
Oh? I don't think I got it.
Messaged you. Oh, let me see. Where are you at on my list?
I don't know. I have to dig through to find you. Oh, I got to relog in. I had changed my password on Facebook. There's Josh.
Look for the cat.
That was the 11th?
11th? I'm not seeing anything. Oh, the Halloween...
Mad Monster?
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even look at it. Oh, sorry. I didn't even get a chance to
That
click on
would
and look at it.
explain that.
That would explain that. James, how was your week?
Oh, the normal. There wasn't anything big or exciting to talk about. I did actually file on my route coverage percentage as part of my disputes.
Really?
And yeah, because my supervisor pulled up that infamous NDI report,
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely none of them were below 10%. They were all between 0 and 9% on average, and my route coverage was 90%. And my previous evaluation, my route coverage was 98%. So there's no way my route coverage could have gone down to 90% if my previous was 98 and concurrent route coverages were above 90%. So I filed a dispute on that. I'm only 5 minutes away from being a 42K. So I filed on that specifically. I wasn't able to go over everything on the sheet and calculate everything with all the other stuff I've been doing recently. But that was a big one. And I think if they raised it up to 95, 98% like it was, I could be back at 42K. And then I'd have to gain another hour on top of that. And my route just doesn't have that. But other than that, we have a temporary OIC in our office. Is another postmaster. He's an awesome guy, filling in for our postmaster while she's off. But we all get along really well in the office, so I'm happy with that. And I mean, other than finding out that a person is getting terminated from the Postal Service for attendance with a local steward who didn't take good care in the process and making sure that everything was filled out properly, misquoted in specific documents. So it's going to be a tough road for them to fight this letter of removal, but it's winnable
It is.
as long as the right people get involved and get involved now. They need to be contacted religiously, daily, until they get a hold of them, getting up all the way up to the district rep, the NRO for them, all the way up to, if they have to, the director of steward operations, director of labor relations, or even the president of the union. Because this is a major issue that needs to be resolved. And there's so many flaws in the paperwork, obvious flaws, that they could easily get this thrown out. Because I've seen the paperwork. But they have to do the proper chain of command through the union, through their designated union representatives, as high up as they need to go. But other than that, good weekend. Ended up going to a cider mill today, having some hot apple cider because it was 45 degrees outside. And I know some people in Alaska are like, 45? That's shorts and t-shirt weather.
I grilled out in my shorts and t-shirt barefoot this evening.
Yeah, but it's nice to have that little bit of warmth while you're waiting for the next heat wave to come through before winter actually sets in. Keep the body from overheating when that 75, 80 degrees comes once more before the snow starts flying.
Yep. Hey, Bill, how's it going? Nice to have you back.
Oh, well, it's nice to be back. So, anyway, yes, I'm back. Wonderful week. Told the supervisor on Wednesday. I asked her, I said, would you like me to come in on Saturday since you're going to be short 2 routes? And she says, no, we only have 1 route down. And I said, you have 2 routes down because RD1 won't be in. Penn State's playing Ohio State at noontime. How do you know that? I said, I don't know, 2 years of experience during football season. So, nevertheless, she ignored it. So, of course, I came in Saturday to help out. And RD1 called out. RD2 was left vacant. And then RD14 went home with a fever. 3 vacant routes. So the supervisor we had on duty Saturday morning is not familiar with the rural carriers and says, well, what are we going to do? I says, I'm going to work my route since I'm on my drop day. I'm not allowed to work any other overtime. Well, we can adjust it to Monday. I says, we don't falsify government documents. Anyway, they actually did get lucky, and 1 person came in a little late, took care of 1 route, so they only had 2 routes down. Then a regular carrier who used to be a super sub came around and asked everybody who's going to help out. And I said, I'll take the back end of RD22. And she looked at me. She goes, but that's your route. I said, it's covered. And then, our postmaster's gone now, so we're in limbo as in regard to who's actually running the show there. Which is funny because that's the same thing we wondered when he was there, who was running the show. But we have a little glass office. It's got a big pane of glass, and you can see right into this office area. There's a knocker in there with tubs and tubs of mail that they found thrown into a dumpster on a city route.
Ouch.
OIG will be in Monday morning.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm sitting there just going, I'm going to love how they try to explain who was on what route throwing this stuff out at any given time, because they split up the city routes every dang day. So you're either going to fire one person or six.
They'll know.
Yeah.
They'll find out who it is. They're very good at that stuff.
Oh, they are. But, management couldn't give them, a clue whatsoever about it. But, that's, it was a moderate day on Saturday. I did get home in time to see my grandson, and the weather's been brisk and nice here. I love it. 45, 50 degrees. You're talking my kind of temperatures there. So, loving life, living large, and stirring the pot. That's what I do.
Oh yeah, me too. It's been an interesting time. We have R5 had leave approved for next week, Tuesday through Saturday. And then our wonderful princess wanted Wednesday off. And then this became a whole thing with the supervisor asking R5 if he would work Wednesday. He's like, no, I have approved leave and I'm not working. Well, we don't have anybody to cover. And he's like, I have approved. Why should I have to come in so she can have a day off? And the supervisor's like, well, if I have to run that route, you're going to have a mess to come back to on Monday. He's like, this is Wednesday. I said, if something like that happened, I said, you're approved leave. Don't worry about it. Enjoy your time off. Let them deal with it. So Now Princess has her Monday K day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off as well. So must be they found yet somebody else to cover her route. Because I know our good friend Rattlesnake, who's listening in, will be covering R5 next week. Oh, I know what I was going to get down to, because we've got 3 borrowed RCAs that have been helping us out in the last couple weeks. One, I won't talk about him. Rattlesnake is awesome. Love him to death. Shouts out to you all the time, dude. And then we have another one that's been coming in and helping. We're taking the aux route, so I wouldn't have to run double, and kind of helping on a little bit here and there. We do have 3 new RCAs in the pipeline. One was an RCA in a post office 2 south of us. So 2 towns south of us. He resigned there, and he has now been hired in for our office. We have another brand new one that accepted, and just a 3rd one. So R4, R5, and if you go by the length of time that the routes that haven't had a sub, R3, which will be my route, should be the next one. But I have a feeling she's going to screw me and put that one on R11. We will find out.
So they getting signed by district?
I have no clue.
No, okay. That's how they do it here in Pennsylvania. District assigns it to them.
No, as far as I know, my postmaster's been the one assigning it. Like I said, it could be different. And then
I think when they first get hired on, HR just throws them on a vacant route, and then local management can update the Form 50 and change them to where they're actually needed.
What if there's no vacant route, Josh?
then why is there a position posted if there's no vacant route?
Why was there a position posted that they hired for?
Well, no, you said a vacant route.
All right, so hear me this one. So they asked R5 if he would train his new sub, because this is the one that hasn't been trained in the past anywhere. The one going on R4 is the rehire. R5 used to be the OJI in the office until he stepped down, didn't want to do it anymore, and then I stepped up and took that over. He does not want to train this sub. And of course, they went to try and guilt trip again, saying, well, we don't have any coverage for R3 to pull her to do it. So this could get interesting to see how these new... I mean, that's why I really hope one of them comes to R3, because that's going to be great. But going by calendar-wise, the earliest that I'll have be placed on this route is November 4th, but more than likely it's going to be November 18th. Which, by the way, for those, we're going back to basic, November 18th is the next contractual general wage increase. 1.3% for all regulars. RCAs are 1.3% plus 1% in lieu of COLA. So RCAs will go up from 1994 to 2038, effective November 18th. And regulars, well, you'll have to look at your pay tables and PTFs because of whatever steps and tables that you're on. Just putting that out there, people.
That 1.3% is based off of February of 21 salary.
Yes.
So if you have an old pay table, an old pay scale from February of 21, you can look it up and look up what you were making then and then add 1.3%.
And the value of the 1.3% to current pay scale.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to take that February 21 pay table, you're going to times that by 1.3%. You'll get that total, and you add that to your current salary. So, yeah. So, that's where I am at on all that. So, it's been kind of nice. Like I said, I'm a little bit more energetic for a change this week. Unlike last week, I was dead in the water, guys.
You were dragging.
I had hit that energy wall Saturday. I had worked 10 hours after pulling 55.88 hours with a holiday in there. My office does not deliver Amazon on holidays or Sundays. I did go in on the holiday to Case Mail. I was there for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yeah, I had hit that. My body was tingling Saturday. I was that tired. So I have gotten a little bit more rest since then. So yeah, I got a little bit more pep in my step tonight. Which I don't know. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. So, like I said, we're going back to basics. Where did you want to start on that, James or Josh or whoever wants to start on something?
One of the things, one of our listeners had posted or messaged that was posted in one of our chats about X days.
Yep. Also, I'm just going to Yes.
I'm going to say how X days, how they work up until before, during, and after the guarantee period.
All right, but let me add on Tekken real quick because I just got reminded in the stage chat that yes, this is the last contractual raise for this current contract that expires May 20th of 2024. This is the last contractual raise for RCAs. Those that are in career positions may potentially have a COLA come January, February, just depending on inflation and all that good stuff. So this is the last contractual raise of this contract cycle.
I want a Coca-Cola.
I have a black cherry Vernors. Black cherry Vernors next to me, and salted caramel crown, and watermelon schnapps.
And the reason why that is because in February is when our national leadership goes into contract negotiations with postal management. City carriers are in their negotiations right now. Ours start in February.
God.
Help us all.
Tentatively start in February.
Yes. And they can last a year or more, depending on how strong our leadership actually puts their foot down towards management on this contract. And I'm not holding my breath.
I was just going to say, I'm not holding my breath. And honestly, guys, just because there's a wage increase in there doesn't mean you have to vote that contract in. Outweigh the pros and the cons when contract ratification comes out. But we'll touch on that when that gets closer to that time. And yes, X days, and the new guarantee year started October 7th, 8th?
7th. 7th. Let me look at the calendar
Somewhere around
just to
there.
make sure.
Yes, October 7th.
When our new evaluations came out.
Yes, October 7th. This is when
Yes.
the new guarantee period started. Now, if you could
Okay.
explain, because this kind of falls in line, at the time when the new guarantee period starts, which is technically like
Alright,
a
so
fiscal
let's-
year, but hold on a second, and then I'll have you touch on it a little bit more, because as still an RCA, I'm aware of it, but not quite familiar with it enough to explain it. And how these weeks from October 7th leading up to Christmas overtime period factor in on how your overtime rate works for Christmas overtime. We'll get to that in a minute, but real quick, so I'll put this out here, was with X days with the beginning of the new guarantee period, if you're not on the relief day work list, or if you are on the relief day work list, you work your relief day and you get a DACA 3. As you guys know, if you're on the relief day work list, you have a choice. You can choose DACA 5 or DACA 3. DACA 3 being a 50% pay plus an X day. DACA 5 being the 150% pay, the overtime. So, DACA
It's
3.
150% plus and no days off. No extra time off. Just
Correct.
150% for
Yes.
the day.
So, if you
DACA
earn in it.
Any?
Go ahead.
I don't know. Is
Josh.
it just me or is she roboting?
No, it's you because
It's just you.
yeah. Let her finish.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to hop out and hop back in while she's finishing.
All right. DACA 3s. You work your relief day, and you under a DACA 3, you're going to get your 50% pay for the day, plus an X day to use. But in the beginning of the guarantee period, it started October 7th and goes through December 22nd this year. You have to take that X day within the same pay period. If you cannot, or management doesn't have the coverage to give you that X day in the same pay period, then it will automatically convert to the DACA 5 and pay you out at the 150% pay.
Yes.
And
Actually, the system will.
Yes, the system will do
The
it.
system will not let them enter the code 3 unless there is an X day in conjunction with it.
Mhm.
So if you have a Friday relief day and it's week 2 and you have to work that Friday of week 2, you only have the choice of the 5 during these 12 weeks, whatever it is, from
Now,
October 7th to
any
December 22nd.
any X days that were earned prior to the beginning of the guarantee period are then banked until the end of till after Christmas overtime. So starting December 23rd,
Yes.
you would then be able to use any previously banked X days. And then it goes back
Yes,
to X days, you can bank them after that to use it agreed upon at a later date. But there is, and I'm going to let you guys that have been regulars a little bit longer explain how the time from the beginning of the new guarantee period up to the Christmas overtime period reflects in how the overtime that you potentially earn at Christmas overtime. I'm going to let you guys take that one.
I am not. That's more, Bill. That's more your forte.
Ugh, please, this is the worst.
I'm not sure exactly. I know it's anything over your evaluation for the week. You get actual hours paid at overtime. So if you're on a 45K, if you run it in 48 hours for the week, those 3 hours are paid at the overtime rate.
Oh, sorry about that.
I was gonna say, wait a minute, I'm not hearing nothing.
This,
All right.
this
Yeah.
is one of the sorest subjects that I've ever encountered in my life with this union, because of the fact that based on your evaluated hours, if you go above your hours, those hours are then calculated into your overtime rate. So the first time this happened to me, I hit the ceiling because the Secretary Treasurer of our state explained it to me, that every hour over your evaluation between the 7th of October and the beginning of Christmas overtime are factored in, computed, and they establish your overtime rate based on your total hours, which means, ladies and gentlemen, you may expect to get time and a half for overtime. But if you are over your evaluated hours for that period between October 7th and the beginning of the Christmas overtime period, you are getting a reduced pay rate on an overtime table. The formula that they have for this makes my head hurt because of the fact that if you have a 48K and you're going to be, like in my case, I'm over 57.36 hours, a week. They take those excess hours above the evaluation, they create a extrapolated algorithm, for the lack of a better word, and your overtime rate could actually be 1.4 your daily rate, 1.3 your daily rate. If you are severely over your evaluation in that time period, you may be getting 1.2% of your daily rate, not 1.5, 1.2. And this is one of those things. It's the same way with the 2080 and the 2240 problems. If you work it, you should get paid for it. If you're over your hours, you should be getting time and a half. If you work Sundays, RCA should get time and a half. If you work holidays, you should get double time. This union has failed us for the past 25 plus years in this regard. Like I said, there is a formula, and God, I have it somewhere. But it's complicated, it's convoluted, and it's basically it's confusing just to make sure you don't figure it out. But you can actually make less than time and a half for working overtime during the overtime period. Does that clear it up?
Yes, thank you. Like I said,
Here's mud.
I am familiar with it, but not well versed in it as of yet. So I wanted, one of you guys that have been around a little bit longer than I to touch that one.
And I actually do.
Put in the comment.
Go ahead, Josh.
I would say, if someone put in the comments, the overtime period is December 2nd through the 22nd, the 3 weeks prior, starting the first Saturday in December, and then the first 3 weeks after that.
And
That's
frankly,
something that irritates the crap out of me.
yeah, frankly, that's horse shit too.
I think it should be the full pay period, not half a pay period. Let me start there. But honestly, and I know there has been resolutions in the past for this, that Christmas overtime period technically should be starting around Thanksgiving and going right up to New Year's.
Yeah,
Am I
It
right,
should
guys?
Yep.
It should start the pay
I
period.
agree with that.
That it should start the pay period that Thanksgiving is in, and end the pay period that January 1st is in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to handle the volume of parcels that we are now dealing with on a yearly basis, because they start just before Thanksgiving, and they end after New Year's.
And technically, as all of us that have been around a while knows, that the day after Columbus Day is the unofficial kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
And I
No,
will.
we won't talk about that one. But
I will formally disagree with James on this. I don't care when the pay period starts. The city carrier's contract has nothing to do when the pay period starts. It doesn't start on a Saturday. They go into their overtime at a specific date in November, and it carries past the new year.
Yep.
I want Thanksgiving Friday to the first full completion of a week in January. Don't tell me you can't do it because it's a different pay period. If you can do it for the city carriers, you can do it for us.
Bill, if they can do 1.5 for us versus 2 full, they can shift it and add a week in the front and a week or 2 in the back.
Yep.
If they can calculate out a 65% money order for carriers that lost their paychecks, they should be able to do it. Sorry, cheap dig.
If they can factor your coverage factor, they ought to be able to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Don't get me started.
The numbers game is really annoying when it comes to Christmas overtime, as Bill explained.
Yeah,
and
like I said, I do have the formulas. It's probably in one of my boxes that's got to be at least 18 or 20 years old that I've got buried downstairs. But when I sat there and tried to calculate the hours, I got a migraine. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm going to call NASA up and see if they can plug the numbers in for me. Because it was, oh my God, it was torturous. It really was.
This is where they
You're
need to implement the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand
Okay.
why it doesn't work in my office because we got a lot of stupid people in there.
Don't put yourself down, Bill. You're very smart.
Well, I told her Penn State was playing Ohio State at noon. He wasn't coming in. It's pretty bad
Right.
when you also make a bet on it and they look at you like, why would you bet $1,000? Because I know it's not going to happen. That's why.
Someone in the chat asked about O days.
I'm gonna read this real
Anytime
quick.
you,
Let me read the whole thing
Okay.
real quick. Completely random question, but can I ask about O time? My truck has been dying for months, and then on my holiday day, Saturday, it wouldn't start. My sub had management try and then wrote it up and took another truck after it wouldn't start. I come in at 7 on Tuesday after holiday, and I let them know I have no truck at that time. I wait until 9:30 when I pull down and ready to go. I have no truck still. She told me they were down 6 trucks. So why am I special? I proceeded to put my mail back up and started casing my DPS into my mail because it's clear I'll not have a truck. At 10:30, I reminded them again, after my DPS is cased and down, that I have no truck. Nothing from management. At 11:30, I reminded them again, and then informed Postmaster because she is off her meeting. My postmaster told me I wasn't getting O time because she gave me a truck when I went to her from a sub. Is that an argument?
If you didn't have a truck and you're on a government vehicle assigned route and there is no truck available, you're on O time. There is no argument on that. Management's in the wrong here. They can't give you a truck from another route until that route is completed because the trucks are assigned to the routes.
Yep.
And then if they give you a truck that's assigned to a route, part of that is you have to fill the truck up before you return to the office. Because if you use a truck that's not that's assigned to another route, you have to actually fill it up before you return to the office. But if you're waiting for a truck and there's no truck available, it's automatically O time. And O time is separate from your route evaluation. And you bank O time. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. But once you hit 8 hours, you get a paid day off.
Yep. And that O time starts at the moment you are pulled down and ready to roll out your conveyance out to start loading. So instead of hitting start load, you would start your stopwatch. And like James said, you keep a log of how long you were sitting there waiting for a vehicle. And till the moment they hand you the keys, and then you stop the stopwatch and you write that length of time down. The caveat to that is if you say, the heck with it, I'm going home, put me in for a sick day or annual or whatever you choose, LWOP, whichever you choose, you lose the O time because you're getting paid. It's an all or nothing thing. And like James said, it doesn't matter if it takes you a day, a week, a month, a year, 5 years to get to those 8 hours. Once you get to those 8 hours, you submit it the same as you would any other leave, and then you check on the bottom there, it says other, and you put O day. And I make a copy of my log where it shows that I've earned 8 hours and then that day that the day before or the day after I'm taking off with the O, I subtract the 8 hours off my log, and I will try to remember tomorrow, if I have a chance, to scan in a copy of the log I use, which is a DACA tracker, and I'll get it to Kristen so she can upload it into the file section.
And this also works for if you're broken down in the field in a government vehicle. So if your postal truck won't start or something breaks on it, gets a flat tire, wheel falls off, door falls off. If a door falls off, you do not drive that vehicle.
Yep,
Things
it's
like
a
that.
safety issue then.
Yes. If
They
the
s-
back door won't open, that's not an issue to park the truck. But if a door is open, it is an issue. Things like that, you get O time for while sitting, waiting for the wrecker to get there. And that O time does not stop until you have another operating vehicle to drive. So if the tow truck driver comes and picks you up and takes you back to the office, the time you spend loading your stuff from one truck to the other is part of that O time.
Yes.
Until you return to that spot on your route where you left that route, that O time still counts.
They
It's just
said
like when
because they
when you
decided to case back up and do the DPS that they canceled her O time. She was told I was
Well,
trying to help them out since I wasn't going to have a truck until 2. I never cased my DPS, but I guess I should have first.
okay, but the O time should have started as soon as you were done casing that DPS. That's the most important part, is you were done with everything and waiting on a truck. So yes, you went back and started casing your DPS. That stops the O time because
Yeah,
you're doing
that would
work
stop the
with
clock
mail.
and then resume the clock once you finish pulling back down.
It's the same with wait time. When you're waiting for them to throw packages and things, you can't be doing any work while you're waiting. You can go to the bathroom. You could go outside and take a break.
But you do not
But
clock out for lunch on the scanners.
you do not clock out to lunch. You let that time add up on the scanner. You also get that wait time as 8127 as a regular carrier, which is
Green card for
green
RCAs,
card for subs.
unless you're going to be over 40 hours and you're getting paid for it anyway.
Yeah. But you log in on the green card anyway, just in case you don't hit that point. And then if you get to that point, another convoluted system there. You also get paid out that 8127 time, that pay period. Management will try not to pay you out for more than an hour of 8127 time because they have to report that to their district manager. It's a thing that came down from national that anything over an hour has to be reported to the district manager. And a lot of managers have bad district managers and they don't want to be sitting there and reporting, oh, I had a guy who had to wait an hour and a half for parcels to be thrown, because then that manager is going to get upset they're paying out that money. And as I said last week, these district managers are looking for any and every way to cut every penny they can out of every rural carrier, every city carrier, every clerk, every mail handler they can to earn belts from national management. So they don't want to report that to their district manager because then, oh, that's money. We're spending more money. That's going to cost me my belt. So that manager gets more upset.
O time, once you've earned the O time, it's the same as an X day. You have supposed to be 12 weeks to use it within. However, because it's on a log, not in the system, there's no way for them to really know, except for the dates that you put, when it was earned versus. And if you're not able to take the time off because they keep denying everyone's leave, you have that as, also.
All right, I want to touch on real quick since we just had a holiday and we have a couple more coming up this next month. Under this current contract, which was a new thing, if you are having to work, what would be your holiday? So if a holiday falls on a day that is technically your relief day, your J day, your K day, so be it. And that, of course, reverts your holiday day reverts back to the day work day prior, the one prior to that. You now have a choice of getting no pay for the day and getting an additional annual day, or getting the straight pay, with the exception of Christmas. Christmas holiday is the only one that is actually at 150%. Which I think it should be all of them, honestly. But that DACA code to have the additional annual leave in lieu of paying for working your holiday is a DACA G. If you're getting paid, you're a DACA V as in Victor. And if you're choosing to do annual, it is a DACA G as in good for you.
I did want to answer one of the things in the chat that said, I banked 15 hours of O time and my supervisor doesn't know how to give it to me. That's a DACA code O
Oh,
for O time.
Yes. Thank you.
and then when they go to the drop down menu it'll say like K to H for holiday, whatever DACA code, when they choose O off that drop down list, it's going to have a secondary drop down list, which has a couple of things, which are the only things that are authorized for them to use an O day for. I forget exactly what all of the justifications are for an O day. I think it's vehicle breakdowns and then possibly grievance settlement are the two main reasons, but vehicle breakdown is going to be your absolute main reason for them to use it.
And that is, O time is only for government vehicles.
Yep.
Correct.
And so I just pulled this up. These are all the DACA codes you could see on your paycheck. So A is annual leave for carriers that use annual leave time they've earned or will earn. That's DACA code A. DACA code B is non-rural V-Day holiday work, regular carrier working in 204B position on his or her designated holiday. So if you are a 204B working a holiday, you would get a DACA code B. DACA code C is continuation of pay used with an on-the-job injury to pay the carrier the route evaluation for up to 45 calendar days. D is donated leave when you've been incapacitated for available Postal Service duties due to a serious personal health condition, which includes an incapacitating pregnancy. DACA code E is limited duty, injured on duty and working in a limited duty status. F is full day union leave without pay. So that is for any time you are doing union business. That includes union officials, regular carriers, union steward, or other union officer, and including conventions and other union business. G is annual leave in lieu of holiday pay. We just discussed that. H is holiday leave. So when we have a holiday and the regulars get paid for that, they'll see an H on their paycheck. L is leave without pay. M, military leave with pay. N is military leave without pay. O, other leave, which is O time leave. When granted, they have to give an explanation. P, work hours other than rural. A lot of our mapping facilitators were paid under classification P. Regular carriers pay the evaluation of the route minus EMA for other work, such as academy trainer. R is worked relief day, carrier entitled to an X day within 12 weeks. S is sick leave. T is training. U, absent without leave, used when a regular is AWOL instead of DACA code L. V is holiday worked. W, injured on duty, leave without pay. X, for X day, relief day taken. Y, non-rural relief day worked. Carrier works his or her relief day in other than rural delivery. Example, academy trainer, etc. Z is steward duty. Then there's the numbers. 2 is administrative leave. 3 is DACA code 3 with 50% and an X day. 4 is a day of reflection. Regular carrier receives 1 day of administrative leave for the day as a result of an issuance of a 14-day paper suspension. 5, relief day worked with 150% pay. 6, court leave. 7, wounded warrior leave. 8, emergency sick leave. And 9, public health leave FMLA, used when requested for public health. That's the entire list of DACA pay codes.
All right. I wanted to touch base with the H for holiday.
Mm-hmm.
For example, with Veterans Day coming up is Saturday, a lot of carriers have Saturday as their relief day. That makes
Like
they
me.
still have their relief day is still Saturday. Their holiday shifts to Friday. If they actually are off Friday for the holiday, it would be a code H. If you have to work that Friday, which is your holiday, you have the V code, which is paid for the holiday plus your evaluation for the day, or the new one's what? G, as in
Yes.
golf,
Yes.
is an extra annual day in addition to your eval for the day. So that is something that's new in, as Kristen mentioned in this contract, that you can choose either getting paid or an extra annual day. So that's up to you on which one you want to take. You want the money or the day off later?
All right. There was another thing we had asked to touch on. I'm trying to think of what it was. Do you remember, James? Our brainwaves working here.
Let's go. Let's go.
There
let's
was
go
another
back to
question
Christy
with
there.
the one that asked about the X days.
Go back to Christy with the O days. The O time accumulation never expires. It's not in a 12-week period. It's not in a year. I've carried O time over for 2.5 years and documented it all. And then when I got to my 8-hour mark, I cashed it in. So your O time is not based on a 12-week, 1 year period. It's total accumulation. It never expires.
And Z time. Okay, I'm going to touch on the Z time. That is for regular carriers that are local stewards. And you are working on steward stuff. Then that is where you log your Z time. And when you reach 8 hours, you get a Z day, a day off. For RCAs that are stewards, that would be green card time. No way around it.
Actual time on a green card. Yep.
Oh, thanks for reminding me, Kristen, because I have 23 days of Z time. When I tell people to file, I do.
Yeah.
23 days. I'm going to take January off.
There you go.
So one of the things that I have seen in many places is a lot of talk about parts of the contract that would be important to carriers. The whole contract is important, but I think one of the biggest ones that we should be talking about is Article 5. It's a very short article, but it's one of the most important articles in the whole contract when dealing with management. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So when dealing with management, the biggest thing about it is we have contracts, we have MOUs, we have step 4 agreements and things like that. And the biggest thing about it is management cannot make a decision by themselves. Article 5 literally is a prohibition of unilateral action. The employer will not take any actions affecting wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment as defined in Section 8D of the National Labor Relations Act, which violate the terms of this agreement or are otherwise inconsistent with its obligations under law. So we've been talking a lot about unscanned parcels. We've been talking a lot about benchmarking and things like that. These are unilateral decisions that management has made. Other things that happen in your office that management makes unilateral decisions on that are violations of things that are in the national contract or in, as I said, MOU, step 4s, or even the joint statements are unilateral decisions that they've made. Bill, you want to get in on this?
No. Well, you asked me, and I said no. It's very straightforward. It's very powerful, and it's one of the articles where, they turn around and when you file an 8191, aka grievance form, I always put that in there. Everything they do affects our wages. From the stupidity of my supervisor not taking my advice to, delaying, delaying parcels because they have to get the city carriers out first. In our office, we are the ugly redheaded stepchild. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore, but that's how we are because of the fact that we work on an evaluated system. They affect our hours, and that's one of the grievances I used to file at least 3 times a month. Was that we are put on the back burner to get the city carriers out because they're paid on an hourly basis and we're paid and evaluated. So it doesn't bother us. Then they come after you for your 2080 or 2240. It's like, well, hold on. Look at my wait time. You get DPS, you get the parcels because, we have a parcel sorting machine in our office now. And I've already filed 2 grievances on this because of the fact that they run the 8Os first, which are the primarily city routes in our office. And then the 8-2s and several 8-0s are rural carriers, but mostly 8-2s. Again, we have to wait until the second parcel run because the machine sorts them in that fashion. And we don't get them in a timely fashion. And then, because they did invest in this wonderful machine that can't read printed labels, there's a wire cage at the end of the machine that catches all the missorts that didn't get processed. And then we have to wait for the clerks to sort them out manually. Well, like I said, I've already filed 2 grievances. We've only had the machine for 3 weeks.
I think another one I've seen. Go ahead, James.
I was going to also say that 99% of grievances that are going to be filed against management are going to include Article 5 as part of the process, as part of the listed reasons as to why. Because most often the reason you're grieving is management made a decision that they didn't consult the union on. And your local management's not going to consult the union before they make a decision. And sometimes not even your district manager is going to talk with your district representative and get union support behind the decisions that they make.
And we've seen this because of the fact that, like in our office now, we no longer have union representation for some unknown reason, decertification, that they turn around and they'll implement policies that, you have to sit there and get a hold of your area, your ADR or your DR to respond to. And by that time, ladies and gentlemen, you could have been out on the road already. So a lot of people sit there and say, well, why should I fight it when it'd be just as easy just to follow along with that policy? Because that policy is not contractually enforceable. These people at district level come up with rules out of their asses, frankly. And, just because they have the authority, they have the power, oh, I'm the district manager. That doesn't make you right. The contract's in black and white. Obey it.
Go ahead with yours.
All right, I've seen another thing post, when it comes to training new RCAs, I, as an OJI, when I did my OJI training, and I was looking for my paper so I could read it verbatim, but unfortunately I do not have it right here available without digging through stuff. According to OJI training, it is 24 to 40 hours for training an RCA. They are pushing 24 hours. And I still, as a trainer and still currently an RCA for a few more weeks, I fully believe, especially with the RX scans now, do not believe that 24 or even 40 hours is sufficient training time for RCAs. There is so many working parts to being an RCA that you cannot fit it all in 24 to 40 hours. Does anybody disagree with me?
I don't disagree at all, and I believe that training of rural relief carriers should be at the discretion of the OJI to ensure that the carrier understands at least the basics of what they're doing. Because there are so many times where carriers don't know what they're doing and they get put on these routes and then they completely blow up and quit because they don't have enough training and they're messing things up, and then management's getting on them to go faster and faster and faster. And there's honestly not a lot of recourse. Yes, the union can file grievances. They can file grievances with the union, and to defend the contract and stuff, but as long as they're within their 90 working days, they could be fired at will, and the union can't bring them back. So there's the fear of being fired as retaliation for them filing a grievance for being abused by management, and it just makes the whole situation worse. But if you could spend more time training these people, they would have a better start to their career. I know when I went and I did my 3 days of training before I was set loose, because that's all I got was 3 days. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the slightest clue. And just figuring out how I put everything together, I was working 12 hours a day on an 8.6 hour route because I didn't know what I was doing. And it took me 6 months by myself to figure it out. And you have management harping on carriers in 30 days, 60 days, and things like that. And it's just not right.
I agree. And every route is different. You know, we all know as a seasoned RCA who's worked in several different offices and ran many different routes, POV, LLV, routes that would be considered actual rural routes, and routes that would be considered closer to butting up with city, like my route I'll be taking over. You know, there are so many different working parts when it comes to this, and I definitely agree. 24 to 40 hours is not enough training time. And each route, and it being its own individual route and having its own things, yeah, you could modify that. And yes, and everybody's different. You know, there are people out there that pick up on it right away, and they kind of get a handle on it, and they get the basics down quickly. And those people we love. And then there's others that don't learn as quickly and need the extra mentorship. I'm going to say that they need that extra time, that extra, helping hand before it finally clicks with them. And then you have some that just never get it anyways. But I've worked with everybody, let me tell you. No, I think training, I honestly think a training period for an RCA, yes, it helped with the addition in the current contract of being on their home route, their assigned primary route for 2 full pay periods before forcing them to go anywhere else, and hence forcing. I think the training period itself to efficiently cover everything should be 2 full weeks, should be a full pay period for training efficiently, and then let them on their own on their primary for 2 full pay periods. Not necessarily with a trainer every day for those 2 full weeks. That be the training time. That way they can come in and not just split the route with the regular 2 or 3 days, however they want to split it up. Some offices are only still doing half one day, half the next, and then others are doing it in thirds. And then taking it fully on their own. I really think that you need more time. And that's not necessarily getting the route line of travel down in months of training or how to deliver mail. I mean, that comes with the extras. That comes in with your rec scans. That comes in with your end of shift duties, especially how to handle your certifieds and expresses and things that they may not see in those 24 hours of training. You may not have a certified in those 24 hours. So when they pull one out of their DPS, what the hell do I do with this? Or have an express come in, or God forbid advos or box holders, stuff like that doesn't happen on a daily basis. You have a better chance of it occurring over that 24-hour period, that I'm thinking faster than I can, or talking faster than I can think. A 2-week period is going to have a little bit more of a broad spectrum. And then that's at the time is you're taking that pressure off of that RCA on the hurry up and get done and figure this out. Then they're coming in and, well, you were trained. You worked with a trainer for 3 days who rode in the back of an LLV if you're an LLV route. How they're going to do training with these mattresses, I don't know. We don't have any in our office, but I've heard some put jump seats in them. I don't know. Again, that's out of my spectrum of knowledge is the Metros. But
Well,
you know,
I can tell you right now.
I would like to see. I mean, yes, you have Academy, but there needs to be more time to where that that RCA takes that part of a route, they come back and then they meet with the trainer and you go over the day, what they ran into. You can go over the pinpoints of what you have to do. And yes, we do. I definitely agree that there needs to be a complete overhaul of our training program and period, not just Academy, but the whole training period for new RCAs in general needs a complete overhaul yet again.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you on how long they should be getting to train. I do believe they should get more than 24 to 40 hours, but I know now with it being such a crunch and such a shortage, they're throwing them anywhere and everywhere that they can get away with. But in the past, I've had an RCA come in at 8 o'clock when my start time is and work with me in the case. And at 10:30 when I'm pulling down, I have them go home. It saves the training hours. Now they've only worked 2 of those 24 hours. I've had them come in at 11 o'clock just to hit, so it's all ready to go for them just to hit the street. So they, so all they're doing is working whatever section they're taking that day, again, just so they can, so we're keeping the training hours down.
And, and I kind of had, and I'm going to, when I started almost 9 years ago, I was in a position, my postmaster at the time I started under was awesome. My supervisor was awesome. Yes, they would be considered unicorns nowadays. He is now retired and she's a postmaster of her own smaller office. POV, and I had issues with getting my POV brakes and whatnot, needed to get it on the road safely. And so, yeah, I did get that extra time to where I could come in and learn the case and case mail. I did get a couple extra days to ride along with the regular, and because at that time we didn't have OJIs in the office. And I still believe sometimes the best way to learn a particular route is with the regular because they know the route. I did get a couple extra times where I got to ride around with the regular on the route, and so I got to learn those little extra things. It's unfortunate that now, and I get it, with having such a shortage of leave replacements in the majority of the offices. Yes, there are some of those unicorn offices out there that are fully staffed and have awesome management. I wish it was everywhere. Unfortunately, that's a small percentage of our offices anymore. That would, allow that extra time for an RCA to learn. I mean, this, as we all know, this job is not for everybody. And with the potential of having 3 newer RCAs coming in the office here soon, as an OJI who's currently an RCA holding down a route until it gets awarded, with no other coverage because there is no other RCAs in the office because our one and only last RCA, he quit Labor Day that evening. So, and then you got regulars that don't want to train. And it's kind of disheartening at times, I think, it's because, you want that time off, but you don't want to train your sub to run your route properly. I mean, I think it has to be a joint thing between a trainer in the office and the regular on that route because trainers may not know all the routes. Number one, they've been regular for so long, they don't know the routes anymore if they ran them as RCAs. It could be a newer route that was put together after they went regular and they never saw it. It is difficult out there if you don't know a route to try and train an RCA because now you're trying to figure out the line of travel with that brand new RCA who may not even know the area because they're new to the area. And whereas in my instance right now, being the RCA that knows every route in my office, I can at least have that heads up on how, the line of travel for the routes. Yes, we're not technically training them the line of travel. We're supposed to be training them how to deliver the mail. But again, there is so many other working parts to it.
Well, if I can offer my 2 cents.
Go right ahead.
I joined the post office when you got 3 days training and that was it. Josh's explanation of cutting their training short, when you go to the route and sending them home so that they can turn around and come back and learn the case. if you're training somebody, and I'm not familiar with your trainer situation, we train people on our routes. Okay, we don't have a trainer, so everybody has different techniques. Whether they just case the raw, working in the DPS, do the up down, do the taco method, whatever. When I get a RCA coming in the office, first thing I do, you clock in on the scanner, sign the 4240, you get your keys, you go out and do your PT on your government vehicle. You come back in, you on your way back in, I run over to the flats area, do my withdrawal, bring it over to the case. There's usually some stuff there at the case that we can start working on. Now, I'm a very meticulous asshole. So my case is set up to train people for eye-hand coordination of, where the different streets are, where the turnarounds are. Everything is labeled. I have each wing has a streets on it, on a little tag on the end, so that they can see what streets are on that specific shelf. And then there's a tag for each specific piece of equipment. So I have 3 full pieces plus a half wing. So every piece of equipment has an address card that tells you what numbers of what street are on there. And then there's a line underneath the streets that end on that shelf, so that you don't look up and down the other 5 rows looking for that street. If it's there, it's got a line, you never have to look again. And like I said, I'm very meticulous. The thing of it is that you can take the carrier, subs out on the route. Learning that case is the most specific item you can teach a carrier or an RCA, because until they learn how to throw the mail and where it goes, they're not going to be efficient.
I agree.
I have trained maybe 25, 26, RCAs in the course of my career. Out of those, 13 of them in the first day, I already said they won't make it. And it's not that I don't give them the full effort. It's that they don't have the intensity, they don't have the interest, they don't have the eye-hand coordination, whatever. You pick it out. There's other ones like a carrier in my office that he was a little bit slow, but he had the potential. He's now a regular. Okay. But one of the most critical things that I helped him with was when we were delivering in an FFV and I'm in the jump seat, I was watching how he was putting mail into the mailboxes, and he would reach out, open the mailbox, turn back, reach in, grab the mail, put the mail in the mailbox, put the lid up. Stop that right off the bat. Mail's in your hand, lid comes down, mail gets slapped in, slap the lid up, go to the next box. Just the little nuances that we know are very imperative for them to be attuned to. You have to teach them the tricks of the trade depending on how you case, how your case is set up, the volume of mail that you have, all the little idiosyncrasies that you take for granted. They need to know, and you have to teach them those. And I mean, this gentleman that is now a regular still comes over and says, "Is this the first class piece of mail?" No, it's not. Does this get forwarded? It's because it's not ingrained in them. And he's been in that office for 4 years.
So, our running joke for the longest time in my office with my work husband has been, the one thing we all took away from Academy is we know what UBBM is.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the only thing that you fully take away from Academy is what UBM is.
And then you go to the office and you see a tub there saying NOV, and you say, "What's NOV?" UBBM.
My office had OBBM and UBBM. My first office. OBBM was or current resident.
It goes in the yellow tub.
Yeah, it just gets to us.
Hey, mine are blue.
Mine are just normal postal, the white tubs.
Mm.
I go through at least one a week. I have a lot of junk on my route.
But yeah, we could talk hours about training.
Oh, we could.
We could talk hours about training. But
one a week.
And I'm going to say, as an RCA still, and somebody who's getting ready to take, for now, only a few more weeks, that'll be a celebration episode. We will, I want to say out there, and I get the ones that have been around a while, and you've been on your route forever, and you know your case, but at least try and update your case labels once or twice a year minimum. As an RCA who wants to come in and run a route they've never seen before, and the case is so out of date and things are handwritten in, or if you are irregular and you update your case and you don't know how to do your edit book correctly to do half-inch separations because you don't have enough room to do full 1 inch per address and you have to do half-inch, learn how, ask somebody in the office how to do an edit book correctly, because when you're cutting and pasting labels and an RCA walks in there to case up your mail and they look at it and they go, what the fuck? Luckily I knew the route, so I knew where stuff went. But if anybody's to walk in that case that didn't know what they're doing, they're gonna go, what? I am confused. Rattlesnake knows which one I'm talking about. But no, case maintenance, and like I said, Bill's very, very particular. I am in the process of trying to update this case because the one thing that irks me is somebody, as an RCA currently, I'm still saying that now, if you have addresses on your case that don't have a mailbox, and there's not even a post out there for a mailbox, and it is not active in your edit book, why is that address on the case? Because now I'm casing stuff out, and then I get out there and I'm like, what the hell? There's no box. I don't even know where this house is because there's a line of trees and 3 driveways next to each other. Okay, why take that extra out there when I could have had that taken care of in the office? I'm very one of those that likes to, I take a little extra time in the office so I can be quicker out on the street. And no, I do not case my DP.
Like I know on my one street, they deemed it a flood zone and the city wanted to buy out like 30 or 40 houses. And the ones that did sell, they've demolished the houses completely. So the only remnants is on the curb in orange. They sprayed the house number, but there's no post, no driveway. They completely got rid of everything and seeded it. So I eliminated those completely from my labels because, like you said, there's no point in having them if there's not going to be mail.
Yeah, I mean, there's one, and I get some of my front properties. Maybe they'd had a mailbox in the past. Maybe it's a newer build, but they, they're seasonal. It's their weekend home. It's their, I don't know, the uppities that have way too much money and need a place to go on the Great Lakes. But when you have a house that burns down years and years and years ago, yes, the mailbox is still sitting out across the street, but that lot is now grass covered and has been for years. Why is that number still on the label? That type of stuff that irks me.
Well, I can see it for the reason the carrier that was on that route had that route for years and years and years and years and years, and not knowing how long ago that was, you eliminate that number. You eliminate that number from the label. When you replace your labels, now everything from that point to the end ships.
Yes, it will shift, and it'll
even though it's only one slot, Bill will tell you that'll throw you off.
I know, and I'm looking forward. And the thing is this is going to be a work in progress for a while because I'm finding stuff every day. So I have that case down almost in my sleep anymore. But I know when I update those labels for all the changes I've done in that edit book, it's going to shift. And I'm hoping I can get that shift done before I have an RCA in there I have to train.
Right. Well, I would recommend to every regular to buy a label printer so that you can put printed names on there when they change and not handwrite it so that somebody has to try to read your scribble. In my case, I use the labels. I use a razor trimmer from Staples to cut the labels out, and slide them into the plastic protectors. That way they don't get dirty, they don't get messed up or anything. And I put a printed label. A girl on RD16 comes over and tells me one of her residents is moving to my address. And, I'd already seen the mail coming through. And she goes, you need to put their name up there. And she looked down and she goes, oh, you already have it. Yes, as soon as I notice that, it gets changed in the red book. The label goes up on the damn case. and the sub, can't say, "Well, I didn't know they live there now," or "I didn't know the other person moved." There's a yellow sticker there, indicating the forward name, and there's a regular label on there indicating the current resident. So do yourself and do your sub a favor, get a label printer and put the printed label in there for people so they don't have to read your chicken scratch.
And yes, doing labels on your case is under return to DU time. Yes.
Management is under your return to DU time, including your edit book, labels, cleaning your case. If you don't have janitors that clean your cases, or janitors that are too lazy to clean your case.
In my office, they like us to go through our hold mail and rubber band it together on by Wednesday of every week. That's an end of shift duty. That's cleaning up my holds that I have. That's that way if it's a pickup and the clerks come, it's all right there. It's, that type of stuff. All those end of shift duties, that's straight time adding on to your evaluation. I really hate doing drop and goes when I gotta be somewhere. That really just it irks me because I would rather take that time to have that case, that mail I brought back, my parcel markers returned to where they go, all that stuff. I'd rather have that done. That way when I walk in that next morning, it's a clean slate to start with. But there are those instances where I'm pressed for time and I gotta be somewhere that I do have to drop and go. And unfortunately, I don't like doing that.
And let me reiterate on the case issue, with the labels and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, the easier you make it on your sub, the better the sub will do. I don't leave mail for my sub. I tell my subs, you don't leave mail for me. I keep my case clean. I keep my truck clean. I clean my truck on my end of shift duties. I make sure the inside windows are clean. I make sure it's swept out. I have a little dustpan with a brush in there and all. I treat my truck, my case, just like I would anything at home. And I treat my subs and anybody I'm training the same way I would treat a family member. Well, except for one family member. But the thing of it is, if I can make you successful, the better for me. So what you put into your training for that RCA, you'll get back.
Exactly. And it's really hard as an OJI to really get in depth with them sometimes with the way management wants to push stuff out the door. You almost have to, there have been RCAs that, I had that extra time where we could go sit in the break room after we got back from running part of the route and kind of go over the checklist and see where we're at and what we've covered and what what they're comfortable with. And I think that's the more additional time, even if you're a regular training your own RCA because your office doesn't have an OJI, is taking that time to see what they understand and don't understand. But we could go on training. We could have a month's worth of episodes on training, for sure. That's always been a big one. I think lately, especially with as much turnover as we've had with RCAs, I know in my office, don't get me started on how many that's been lately. But we really, training is definite. And case maintenance, yes, all that is end of shift duties. Cleaning up, that put my holds up for the next day. A lot of times, if I get PARS labels in that day, I'll look at them. I'll look at them in the morning to see if it's something that affects me that day, and I'll put them to the side, and I will then do my PARS labels when I get back after the route under the end of shift duties. When I'll mark it on the case, I'll put them on the pink cards. I have a lot of seasonal residences on this route that are starting to leave. I actually have separate pink cards just for my temporary forwards. That way, if they're not getting mixed in with the regular forward, with the permanent forwards. So all that stuff is end of shift duties that I do to make sure everything is. And I'm not quite as OCD as Bill is, but I am fairly particular on how I keep up my case and whatnot.
We do have episode 6 training a new RCAs on there as well in our podcast list.
Yes, we do. And I'm sure we've touched on it a few other times too.
But,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is back to basics, though.
Yes.
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 And it's important for us to make sure that you understand the one thing that we care about is everybody having as much information as possible. That is the basic premise of this podcast, supposedly.
Well, that's not true because Kristen just said OCD because I can't spell.
Wait, we're going to Old Country Buffet? What?
Yes.
Are they? Is there even some of those still around anymore? I don't know.
No, there's not, but I figured I would throw that out there just to kind of age myself.
I aged myself with that too, and I'm older than you. But
No, but I do have a Golden Corral.
yeah, I don't know if I've ever been to one of those.
Oh, they have the best chicken livers in the world.
There's actually
It's
a place in Michigan. If you ever get back to Michigan, Bill, down just north of Lansing in the little town of Powderville. For those of you that are in Michigan, if you like chicken livers and gizzards, it's called Gizzard City. It was actually on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives at one time, and they have a whole gizzard festival. I've never been a huge gizzard and liver person, but man, I will eat a basket of those at Gizzard City. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's still around.
Yes.
I'd have to look it up. But
You can have my share.
yeah, they're just south of Lansing, just
still
north
there.
of Charlotte, called Gizzard City, little town of Powderville, Michigan. If that's your thing and you ever get into that neck of the woods, I highly suggest you go there. It is a dive. It is a dive place, but it's awesome. It really is. But
And they're open 10 p.m. every night. 10 p.m. every night.
I think we're gonna wind it down for this evening. It's going on 9:15. My daughter's supposed to be getting out of work here shortly, so
Because of that, I'm going to actually give our listeners an assignment tonight.
Ooh.
Our very first ever assignment. Because we want you guys educated. And the biggest education tool you can have is reading our contract. But the biggest one I'm going to give you is our specific grievance procedure, which is Article 15. There's a lot of information in there. But the biggest thing you want to take away is the Step 1 section. The Step 1 section is where you initiate the grievance process. So go through your contract. You can look it up on the union website. It's Article 15, Grievance and Arbitration Procedure. You can read the whole thing, but the main one is in Section 3 Procedure, Step 1, because that's where every rural carrier starts, is at Step 1. You can find it, the union website, ruralinfo.net also has it on there, or you can search the EL 902, which is our contract with the Postal Service. It is a public document, so it has to be available to the public to read because it's a government agency. It has to be FOIA requestable.
And I do believe if you are a non-dues paying craft member, you can still get a copy of it on the website without being able to log in.
Yes, you can.
Because if not, Rural Info has it. Rural Info has it.
If you keep your magazines, they sent out, it was the all blue cover copy of the magazine. What was that, sometime in 22, I think.
Yeah, I remember
signed.
that color.
Yes, it was blue.
Mm-hmm. I actually still have it somewhere here in my magazine stack.
I've got two bound. I've got two bound copies right in front of me. I actually have a coworker who asked for a copy of it because he did not keep his one that was mailed out to him, and I told him I did have an extra bound copy that I would be happy to bring in to him on Monday.
I was told it's also on light blue. I'm
You
not
know,
sure
guys.
where, but
when I moved in June, man, and I cleaned out my office from the old house, my wife sat there and goes, "Why do you have these magazines from 15 years ago?"
Also, guys, if you have a hard time finding it online, reach out to one of us, and we'll be more than happy to get you a online copy sent over to you, PDF.
Yes.
And that's it, Johnny.
All right, Josh, any last comments for tonight?
other than enjoy your reading assignment, be safe out there. Don't get overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, step back in. We're getting to that time of year where it's going to start getting darker earlier. Well, it already has. And the volume of parcels is going to pick up, which means your days are going to start getting a little bit longer. Have a good week. I'll see you next time.
James?
biggest takeaway any carrier can have is knowledge. Knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more you are a bane on management's existence. So with that, just remember, we're all rural carriers here. We're all the same craft. We're brothers and sisters fighting the same fight against management. We're all in this together.
Bill, your last commentary for this evening.
You know, it makes me sad that James has to say that about management. Wouldn't it be wonderful if management actually worked with us to resolve the issues instead of having to fight them tooth and nail every day? You know, what type of retention would we have for RCAs if we had better management? What type of work situation would we have as far as, you know, having our drop days off or getting leave if management cooperated with the union? And that was always my goal as a steward, was to get management to cooperate without getting to the grievance process. Sometimes it worked, not very often, but sometimes it did work. And that's the reason for the grievance process, folks. When management fails to follow the rules, the regulation, the contract, the basic decency that we are afforded as human beings, that's when we have problems. And it's sad to say that, you know, under the current management in my office, it will not improve anytime in the near future. And probably 90% of the offices across the country. But for you that have the wonderful supervisors, the hardworking postmasters who pitch in and help get routes delivered on, I'm envious of you. I really am. I've never seen that happen in my office in over 25 years. So enjoy what you have. In the meantime, go out and do the job the best you can. Train your RCAs to the best of your ability. Treat them all like they're your children, you know, educate them, and be safe. Like I said, it's going to be getting darker. You know, you're going to be getting a lot more parcels. Just, you know, be safe out there, especially if you're doing parcel runs, you know, as a second run and it's dark out there. You don't know where the dogs are coming from. You don't know where you're stepping. Just be careful out there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're the most important delivery day. I don't give a rat's ass about the mail of the parcels. Get home to your loved ones.
Absolutely. And yes, it is getting darker out there. And how dare I say this, but Amazon does have these great little finger gloves that have lights on the tips of them. I have a pair that are rechargeable. I have to dig them out as it is coming to be getting darker. I'm on a 9-hour route that sometimes does take me 9+ hours to do. You know, that to me, they're a great investment. And this will be my third winter with them. And like I said, I got to dig them out. So that's just a heads up. They are out there. I've seen some pictures of people posting on the social webs about getting them and stuff. They help out tremendously. They cut the glare from having a headlamp. You can see the mailbox. You can get through your mail without having to turn an overhead light on. They're awesome. So definitely, if it's something that you need to check into, if you are in the areas to where it's getting darker earlier and you're still out on the street as this time of year is coming up. So on that note, guys, have a good week. Stay positive. Any questions, always feel free to reach out to us. I know many of you do. If we don't get back to you right away, please just patience. I know with the emails, I try to send them off to everybody and say, hey, what's your biggest takeaway? Bill, your one response to that one email, she said, big thank you from the sender of that one. And we will be back next week.